Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back. And it's right now the hot seat really begins right here.
Yeah.
We're at the good one right now.
We have a longtime friend and now the City of Houston appointee to the Harris County Appraisal District, Ray Holtzapple. Welcome, Ray.
How you doing, Ray?
I'm doing well. We'll have to see what happens.
Anyway, we had talked a lot on what. First of all, tell us what you do and what your responsibilities are.
Well, it's kind of interesting. The law is quite strict on this, and as an appointee, and we have 6 people on the board of directors, and they vary from the city of Houston to someone who represents all the other 32 cities in Harris County, and somebody who represents HISD, and somebody who represents all the other school districts. And it's one of those things where we have a very interesting board mix. But our requirements are, number one, is we get to hire or fire the chief appraiser. And that's kind of interesting because the stuff we have to go through intellectually, it's quite a challenge. And then we get to look at the budget, approve it, and work with the different taxing districts because they're the ones who actually fund the budget. Oh. And then the last thing we get to do is we get to recommend areas that need to be looked at for improvement and things like that. We do not get involved in the day-to-day operations of any appraisal district. The law restricts us to those 3 areas.
Now, you also brought on some very interesting data. It looks like, one of the things we were talking between the break, actually, was some of the interesting items that are going on in regards to, some statistics you've got right there, 2010 single-family areas, and sort of the boom, recession, and the recovery between 2007 and 2014.
I don't know what show he thought he was coming on, but he's entirely too prepared.
Well, this can be kind of boring and cut and dry, but you wonder why your appraisal for your property goes up. One of the things that the Harris County Appraisal District Board of Directors have decided to do is reappraise every year properties. We're required by law to reappraise once every 3 years. So if you have a very stable environment and you do not see swings up or down like we've seen out of the financial crisis and now the uptick in property values, you don't have to do it more than once every 3 years. But we see things going down, so and we're usually a year behind because our information is last year's information, and it's all done as of January 1. So it's kind of a snapshot that you take at the beginning of the year, and you have to go back and look at things. And so we say, okay, let's make sure the market information we have is tracking the best we can so that people are not overpaying or underpaying their appraised value.
Now, have you been doing it on a year-to-year basis for how long now?
It's been year-to-year basis for 10 years at least.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, I always get this question from clients and customers is that, there's a house that's just like mine, 3 doors down, and I'm on the tax rolls for this amount, and they are on the tax rolls for that amount. Kind of explain that process as how that occurs.
Well, again, it's the knowledge that the appraisal district has. They can look through satellite maps, mapping and everything else, the outside of a house. But they do not know what the inside of a house looks like. And the most important thing that you can do with working with your appraisal district is make sure they know the condition of the house. If you have a house that needs a lot of repairs, they don't know that. So when you go to protest, and we encourage people to protest their taxes if it's not right. We want people to come in, and you'll find that you get to do it through either online, through iFile and iProtest and things like that, or come in and talk to an appraiser. Or if you do not get satisfaction at that level, then you go before the Appraisal Review Board, an independent group of 3 people that do not work for the appraisal district. And if that doesn't work, then you can go ahead and go through arbitration, file a lawsuit. So there are many things that you can do, steps, very logical steps in order to do it. But as far as my house is different from the house next door, your condition of your house may be different. They may have done extensive remodeling. And those that pull permits, not everybody pulls a permit to do remodeling, gets tracked. Those permit information goes from the city or the county or wherever your permits are pulled to the appraisal district. That's factored in. You'll see extensive remodeling or partial remodeling as part of the information you'll see on your sheet, on your information. So if you have problems, and say you have a foundation issue, you have major repairs, you have old Chinese pipe in your house that's leaking all over the place, and you have to do you have windows that are rotting out.
Chinese drywall?
Chinese drywall. That's a good example, yeah.
Long story there.
Not maligning China, but I'm just saying there are these issues that are out there in the industry. So bring that along. Don't come to HCAD or any appraisal district wanting to complain about your house being overvalued without information. Come with the facts.
And that's actually what first thing I'll ask them, I said, have you ever protested your taxes? Well, no. And the other person probably did. That's why you get disparities. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, and I think it's exactly that. And sometimes I know they get a lot of the information on square footage from the builders when it's first built. Sometimes that information is erroneous. I mean, I've seen a lot of houses that are showing too large and a lot showing too small. So, if you don't have accurate information to begin with, the HCAD can't do anything with that.
Yeah, along those lines, I've worked with I'm a realtor by day, and one of my clients bought a house, and the survey was wrong. It had 2 houses on his lot. Okay, which really was interesting tax time when he got his first tax bill. And we went in and sat down on informal, and they pulled up the mapping system. We're able to look at it, see where the lot lines were, and corrected it very, very easily. But had they not protested, he would have been paying twice as much taxes as he should have been.
Right.
Yeah.
And and the other question I was going to ask is, I get this question this is the number one question I get, whether it's generally on the high side. We get a market analysis on, we get an appraisal and a fair market analysis, and it comes in, a good value, and yet compared to HCAD, it's a lot higher than what HCAD. So the first question is, are you going to report this to HCAD? Are you going to tell my appraisal district what this looks like? And y'all don't look at any of that data. Y'all don't look at the data. My personal appraisal, y'all don't consider when y'all consider your tax values.
What HCAD has available, and all CADs have available, is the MLS data. And we get that through an independent third party, not directly from the realtors. Okay.
Right.
And those are the solds and the for sales. And, it's interesting that some people will actually put their house on the market at a low price before they come in to protest the taxes. I can't believe people
that never works,
do
does
that. It doesn't work because we go on HCAD, see how long it's been on. If it's been on 2 days, we know at a low price it's probably put on there just to skew the data one way or the other. So it's kind of interesting to see what information is and how some people have their eyes opened up when they come in. But it's interesting in the fact that we do not have disclosure in the state of Texas.
Right.
So there is no public disclosure of commercial, residential, or any property that's sold. And this is actually one of the challenges that the CADs have. So you have to go with market data that's available to you. Commercial is an issue because a lot of commercial transactions are never disclosed.
Right.
Now that helps developers in some respect, and developers may not wish to have that disclosed. But it's one of those things where if we had open market data, it would do better for everyone in the long run because we would be more equitable in our approach.
I bet you could get an argument from some people on that one.
I have had arguments with people on that. They get kind of heated sometimes.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, especially these people in the office buildings and things like that. They know their appraisal is way too low.
This is Jeff Hayes again. I have a question as far as, I don't know if they're myths or realities, but I think a lot of people, and I've heard this from a number of people, that the appraisers for central appraisal districts have somewhat of a rational behavior, and that if they want to keep their job, if they want a pay raise, then they got to get the values up. I've even heard people that have worked for HCAD saying, alleging that in meetings they'll talk about, if you want to get a pay raise, we've got to get the values up. And when the appraisal districts were set up, they were really set up to be an independent determiner of the appraisal value, because we had the school districts and the counties and the cities and everybody else. How do you combat that sort of natural tendency that they know that if there are more taxes coming in, there's a better chance that they'll get a raise?
Well, number one is the CADs do not worry about taxes. That is not their job. Their job is to focus solely on market value of a property in today's conditions.
But for the appraiser for HCAD, they know that if there's more revenue, there's a better chance they get a pay raise. And so from that standpoint, I'm not saying that it happens, but I think there are people that think it happens. And that's one of the, they need to somehow keep that from being related, in my opinion, because there's a normal tendency to be higher in the value because there's a better chance that there'll be more money for me to get paid, or they'll be able to keep my job.
Well, that's a myth. I'll say it's a myth, because the board of directors controls the budget. And our budget is not set to tax rate. Our budget is set on what needs to be done to do the proper job. So we don't move it up or down depending on what the market's doing.
And I think it was really interesting what you said. Y'all are not a taxing authority.
We're not.
That is not what your job is. Your job is to set a market value associated with HCAD's directives that you have right there. But you're not bringing in the tax money. You operate on a separate budget. You operate on an independent budget right there, and that's independent of what the overall values ended up being. And in fact, one of the things we're going to go back to, we'd actually talked about. You've seen some big changes value-wise in HCAD, haven't you? As far as
very much, the market has swung, and we followed those.
And I can imagine.
Well, we have 1.7 million parcels. We're the second or first largest taxing district in the United States.
Wow.
And we have two major cities that are not zoned, which really complicates the world.
Right.
So all things being said, it's a challenge.
I can imagine, the whole no zoning here in Houston, we all love it. At the same time, a lot of challenges exist because of it.
Yeah, it is definitely a love-hate relationship.
It is definitely a love-hate. You know what else the love-hate is? All these breaks we have to take all the time.
Well, we got to pay for the show.
We got to pay for the show. We have to have our sponsors pay for it. So we are talking appraisals. Fun time here right now. But we're going to come up against a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.